I really don't have anything all that significant to say to introduce this topic of sitting with the muse, because I feel like I said it all in the episode itself. So, but one thing I do want to say is that through these contemplations about the muse itself, like what in the world drives us to this desire to create something of it, whether it be a thought or expressing an insight or something physical in the world. Behind everything is this drive to create, and what the inspiration is being with the creations themselves, being with things, both with the things that already exist and also with the possibility of what could be. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and I will see you on the flip side. So, all of these topics for this podcast came up to me yesterday when I was walking around in my front yard. And it's really such a challenge to not consistently and constantly be pulled back into my phone or computer and not because I'm trying to be on Instagram scrolling or TikTok all the time, or, it's not that. It's that I just want to be, and my mind is always wanting to think about something or puzzle something out or make my thoughts, like the narrator, I call her, make my thoughts into something coherent, an essay, a chapter of my book, a character, a podcast episode. So there's this dance that I have with the muse, because when I'm doing those things, like even if I'm in that, in social media or something like that, and I have very limited time that I allow myself to spend there, because there is some really wonderful things. There are some really wonderful things. I find music all the time because I pay attention to the music that's playing, and I look up the artists and I add it to my playlists, and I go down the rabbit hole of their work and what they create, and I allow myself to experience it. But there's so much distraction out there that it takes intention to do that, and focus, to be able to say, to stop, right? And to just be with it, because I do the same thing. I scroll and I go, okay, I love this guy. I love what he has to say and his message, and I'm going to share it, and I'm going to listen to this 1 minute, and then zoop, scroll past it, and then zoop, scroll past it. So this is not an episode about social media. And we can talk about that a lot more in another episode, but it's really about the frenetic nature of our world. And we can even create art, like, I don't even want to just say art, because everything is art. So when I say art, I don't just mean a painting or a writing or a sculpture. I mean anything that comes from you that is being created. And that could be obviously a song or something you've said, or it's just a creation. So I'm going to try to just use that word creations, but we'll see. See how that goes. So my comment for possible contemplation on your part is the frenetic nature of our being right now in our society, how we've chosen to live. Most of us, some of us don't live like this, but like a large majority of us in this global community, we're plugged in to a great extent. And it's beautiful in so many ways. We are able to experience and grow from and draw from the substrate of a larger and larger pool of experience, existence, perspective, right? Ways of seeing the world and being in the world. You know, if you've never traveled and then you travel for the first time, sometimes you return to your life and everything's different. Either you love it more or you actually hate it. You're like, why was I doing that? I could have done that. And then you realize there are infinite ways to put together your life, to choose to live your life, to express yourself. And so with every time we move out of our space, we expand a little bit more. So we're going to talk about expansion and contraction and breath again another time. But I'll just plant that there for a second. So it can be very frenetic and highly stressful. I mean, because of that fact is that we have this expanding understanding of possibility. And then we are also still playing the old scripts of what is the limitations, what those limitations are to what is possible. So the artists, the creators, which is potentially all of us, we all create. I mean, even when we feel like we're creating nothing and we're stuck, you know, there's still creation being had. There's still a life being created, the day, you know, what it is that is going to happen for you, what your future might be, what your present is. But there is this knowing that is infinite possibility, and then that is it can be difficult. It often is when we still live in possibility, in limitation, which we have to some degree, because otherwise it all flies apart. And then where is the container? How do we capture any sort of idea? It's like I see each piece of art is a little point in all that is. And it's literally just stopping time to recognize one aspect of everything. So with that in mind, I was pretty agitated yesterday. And I might have said this in this podcast episode, I'm not sure, but agitation, I have a very interesting relationship with agitation. And I think I'll talk about that in another episode. But I was pretty agitated, and I was feeling as if everything was too much. I was exhausted, and I have a history of exhaustion and fatigue. And I've been coming to more and more of a realization. It's becoming more and more clear to me in a sometimes seemingly really painful, long process. What is behind this? Some might have called it chronic fatigue, or just complete and utter exhaustion, where I feel like I could just sleep for weeks. Like that is what I'm desiring the most, way deep down. Although I get up every morning and it's gone. And I'm like, I just can't wait to make shit and create and do all the things, you know. It's not just about doing, but it's experiencing. I can't wait to experience this day. Used to be about doing. Now it's more about experience. All right, so I'm feeling agitated because I'm tired of being tired. I know that there's this deep well of energy that I can tap into, and I have tapped into. Whereas before, it used to be, pushing through. And I wonder if that that exhaustion is literally my body and my mind and my soul saying, Carla, right now you're just trying to push through to produce what you think needs to be produced from your innate, I guess, your innate creator, the innate creator within you. Do you really need to have something like manifest? And maybe, yeah. But sometimes it takes a bit of pulling back from the creating, right? The act, the doing, to just be with the muse. And so while I'm walking yesterday, I'm coming up with all these ideas for this podcast. And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, my mind is just going with ideas and exactly how I would say it. And had I had, been in my office, well, I probably wouldn't have done it because it was coming to me just by being in nature and sitting with the muse. But had I been able to record exactly what was going on in my mind, I would have had 5 episodes done. 5 episodes, and I don't, again, listen to my language, done. 5 episodes expressed in the way I wanted to express it. The way that was starting, the epiphanies that were coming to me. And I don't know about you, but as a writer, or even like I'm not a musician, but I love music. And something comes to me and I need to record it because then it's going to be gone. And I want to capture everything. It's like FOMO, fear of missing out. It's not missing out of an event that's happening. It's missing out of capturing that and turning it into something, piece of art. And, but I've been learning to let go of that because I know that if it is something that is meant to manifest as a piece of art, it will come back. It will cycle back. And if it doesn't, it's okay because there are infinite other things that will. All right, so I'm agitated about feeling fatigued. So what I did was I went out and I also figured out some things out that the agitation is part of. And that's about being seen and heard and witnessed as well. And that's another topic that we're going to talk about in another episode. But I decided that what I needed to do, or just felt my way through to this, is that I needed to sit with the muse. I wanted to sit with the muse. I was ignoring the muse. I was trying to produce something out of the muse, and I was not actually looking into her or its eyes, being with it, absorbing it, noticing it instead of trying to interpret it, right? The narrator, the interpreter interfering with that, just the simple sitting. Not even the contemplation. Contemplation is a much gentler notion of being with something, but you're still in the mind. You're still trying to make something of it. And this is a noble pursuit. This is sensemaking. Yet I realized that I just get it. When I feel like that, it's either go to sleep, honor that need to shut off, and switch into, you actually never shut off, but switch into the dreamscape and allow the ego and the doing to just kind of let go a little, loosen its grip. Or, just go move my body, get outside, be with nature. Nature has all of the, not answers, but all of the truths. And when you sit with that muse, the truths come through. And are felt, actually. And also the people, go live. Like, instead of writing about life, go live it. And then when the time comes to create something manifest that you'd like to, put into the world as an artifact of that particular moment in time, then you do that and you express it. And life, though, is for living. Like, to be with the muse, dance with the muse, go be with friends and family, have adventures and tragedies, and just living, being. It could even just be chop wood, carry water. And sometimes I literally do just that. My favorite meditation being time is actually doing the dishes. The other day I went out into the woods, and I call it woods. There's skinny poplars, but it's lovely, and on our land, and it's right beside our house. And I just go out there and I dragged out the dead trees that could be chopped for firewood, for our fire pit. And I did that just because. And also, it was, in a way, okay, you need to do this, Carla, because it reminds you of why you're living in the first place. It reminds you of, it's not even just reminding you, it's just basically going through the motions of taking care of yourself, of allowing the moment to just be the moment, to return to the basics instead of making things so convoluted. I think that's what art making can be, creating can be. But when is it that we are creating a fire that I wanted to say nurture, that's not it, that warms, rather than, doing something that's so complex that the fire is just forgotten. Even the meaning or the reason for it is forgotten. So I go out and I okay, let's chop wood, carry water, be with our family, our friends, go to shows, steep in other people's art. Travel. And even if we can't travel, if we're sitting there, in our homes and saying, well, this is all I can afford to do. What is it that I can do or be with right now? Well, it's just life. Can't afford the jet set life to go to Egypt, and be in the pyramids and, listen to the echoes in the king's chamber, there is that sacred space everywhere, if only we tune into it. It's in a smile. It's in, something, a shared story. And sometimes when I'm writing, I'm like, okay, I want to revisit my stories, and sometimes that charges me and allows me to sit with the muse. But sometimes I need to read someone else's work. And sometimes it needs to be outside of the seriousness. So I'll read something that is totally not the style I would engage with, or it's just funny, or it's something I've been resisting. And allow it to be the muse. Because it will be. I guarantee it will be, even if it's something that you've resisted or continue to resist. So I suppose maybe wrapping this up, this topic of sitting with the muse. Yeah, it can be on a rock, throwing pebbles into the lake. It can be quiet time, catching fish or crayfish, or being with children in your life. It could be a mom nursing her baby, in the quiet hours of the morning, walking in nature, noticing the little critters that are just everywhere. The other day I sat in the grass and there were I knew this was going to happen. I noticed one ladybug, and then I noticed two. And then I noticed three, and before I knew it, there were 6 of them that I hadn't even had any idea existed in that little small area at one time. Just imagine what's happening all around you at all times. And to move out of the overwhelm of things being fast and having to create more and being out on social media and all these things that are just overwhelming, we just focus on one. And then when we're done with that, we lightly hold it in our awareness and we think about something else, contemplate something else. I shouldn't say think. Here I am shitting on myself. Contemplate something else, hold something else gently, and then allow it to just be what it's going to become if we so choose to express it. So that kind of saved me yesterday from a lot of turmoil, of agitation with, what is happening in life when I focus on those things that were agitating me. And it allowed me even just to contemplate the agitation and to move out and actually do something about it, I suppose. Move out of that vibration. There's a doing there. It took intention, not force, but intention and a new focus to re-see everything that's around me already. So I suppose that's a nice way to end this. I feel ready now to just go create something out of that. All right, so I don't know how I'm going to end this podcast. I actually was thinking, just to make sure that anyone listening understands, or knows where to find me, and you'll see all that in the show notes. I'm not introducing myself every single week. I don't think that's necessary. I'm not even going to, I don't think introduce the show, although there might be a little bit of music at the beginning. But you can look at the trailer, listen to the trailer if you want to know more about what this show is all about. And you can go to my contact form on either of my websites in the show notes, where you can make suggestions for future shows of things that you'd like me to talk about. I have a growing list of 1 million things, but at the same time, I really like to know what is going on in your mind about this whole concept of unique genius, purpose, and creativity. So, this is Carla Atherton signing out. Thank you for playing. For more information about my individual and group coaching, on-demand programs, Coaching the Coach's training, and my Veil's Edge fantasy series of books, please see the show notes for my links to my websites, social media, and other stuff. Do consider supporting my work on Patreon. Be sure to follow the show, follow me at Coach Carla Atherton on Instagram, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, whatever avenue is best for you to stay up to date with new episodes. Please note that this podcast is not a source for diagnosis, therapy, or treatment, but is the opinion of the host and guests. The intention is to support and inspire. Each person's health is their own responsibility. May you, your family, and the people you serve be well. Thank you for playing.